South Carolina State Park System has a 12 Deals of Christmas every year in December. And this year, for the 12th day, they encourage everybody to go visit a state park and to take a photograph of you with 12 items. So we decided we'd ride up the road to Lee State Park. It's not too far from the house, and check it out. We had never been there before, so it was a chance for us to try a new park, get one more checked off our list, and support the South Carolina State Park System in their endeavor to try and promote the parks. Here's what we had to say about it. I hope you enjoy.
That sounds like all three of us are going across.
Lee State Park is one of 16 state parks that were built by the Civilian Conservation Corps during the Great Depression. Just outside of Bishopville, it sits just off of I-20 in Lee County. Lee State Park was built in 1935. It's only one of a handful of state parks that is an equestrian facility, meaning that they have corrals for horses near your campsite. There is a show ring and also horse stables available a little bit further back, and there are horse trails throughout the entire park. There are several artesian wells that were dug by the Civilian Conservation Corps. 4 of them, I think they say, are still operational. We went and saw 2. The easiest one to get to is right near the office where the ponds are. That's kind of where a lot of that, the nature is seen, right there in that area. There's also a swimming hole in that pond during the summer. And then of those 3 ponds that are right there together, a little sign that will tell you that they were built with the intention of raising fish to then stock into the Lynch's River, which I think is kind of interesting. Now there's catfish in there. You can go fishing, as I mentioned, go swimming, and it's fed by one of the artesian wells. Also near that office is a boardwalk that walks out into the wetlands fed by the Lynch's River. What makes Lee a little bit different than like H. Cooper Black, which is another one of the equestrian parks in South Carolina, is H. Cooper Black is sand hills and pine trees. This is a hardwood forest floodplain, so there's lots of forests and lots of water. It's wet. There's a huge diversity of wildlife because of it. I think I saw somewhere around 140 different species of birds have been seen there. So if you're a bird watcher, probably a great place to go do your bird watching. There's an education center in the office. Unfortunately, the day that we went, they were closed. They were doing some training, so they were off premises, and it was closed, but it looked like a very large facility, and probably a lot to learn inside of there. I guess one advantage of taking so long between when we film these videos and me getting them edited and put out is it gives us a chance to go back and revisit some things that we missed, or opportunities to do some things that we didn't get to do the first time, and that happened here at Lee State Park. As I just mentioned, we didn't get a chance to go into the education center because it was closed when we went on that first week in December. Well, we decided to go back the second day in January of 2021 because the state was offering a deal where they wanted a first hike. They were encouraging everybody that first weekend to go out and do a hike of the state parks, and we decided to take advantage of that and go up to Lee State Park. Luckily for us, the education center was open, so we were able to go in and take a look around. They've got a really neat display of the river, some of the animals that you could see there. The park ranger was in there and was very helpful, kind of talking to us about the Civilian Conservation Corps and some of the things that they built. And then we went on a self-guided tour around the ponds that the CCC built. It was really educational, and glad we had a chance to do that. Read me stop 4.
Stop 4, to supply fresh water to the recent areas of the park.
Recreation
areas of the park. The CCC drilled
Artesian.
Artesian wells. These follows 24. These flow 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. How many gallons per minute do you think flow out of these wells?
One other correction that I need to make from our first trip. I mentioned that we saw 2 of the 4 artesian wells, and that one of them, the easiest one to access, is right there by that first pond, kind of near the visitor center, education center area. I was wrong. There's 2 right there. The second well wasn't probably 20 yards away from the first one. We just didn't see it the first time. We weren't really paying attention. This time when we went on the self-guided tour, we walked right past it and said, oh, this one was right here next to us. So the 4th artesian well, according to the park ranger, is down a road that was closed. Right now, it's a dirt road that does a big loop through the park. A section of it that gets closest to the river had been closed due to flooding. If you want to access the Lynch's River, that's where you do it. Unfortunately, because of the weather, we weren't able to go and check that part out. But hopefully, whenever you want to go, it'll be a little different weather experience. You can get right there to Lynch's River, and you get to that other artesian well.
Someday we can go out to Oregon. We can find some.
The campground itself is 2 loops, kind of figured into a figure 8. The front loop, or the first part that you drive into, is kind of your standard campsites. While we were there, they were all tore up. They're in the process of making them all 50 amps. So there's trenches cut throughout. The road was pretty rough, and all that area was closed. So everybody was in the back loop, which is the equestrian loop. There are 23 sites in that back equestrian loop. They are all 50 amp. Some of them are full hookup. I think there was 5 of them, I think. Don't hold me to that, but I think there was 5 full hookup and 50 amps. There are corrals kind of around the perimeter, and then kind of in the middle of that figure 8 for you to keep your horses. When they get the front part done, there's going to be 25 sites in that front loop. Like I mentioned, they're upgrading to 50 amps. There's a bathhouse in the middle of each one. Since it's a day trip, we didn't go check out the bathhouses, so I'm not quite sure how nice they are. One of the other things that we did while we were there on our second trip to Lee State Park was rode back over to the campgrounds. As I mentioned just a minute ago, when we went the first time, the campground was pretty torn up, especially the front part, the family part, where they were adding in the 50 amp service. They had cut trenches all over the place. The road was a mess. When we went back the first week in January, a lot of the work was done. There are actually some campers staying in some of those campsites, so some are prepared and ready. I will say not all of them were. Some of them were still pretty tore up. It gave us a better idea, though, of what some of the sites will look like, or what they looked like before. Once again, once all the work is done, everything will be 50 amp. There are still, I believe, 5 full hookups in the front loop. I think I saw 6 in the back loop. I'll correct that and put a little number, maybe right here, and tell you how many there are when I double check. Some of the sites looked pretty small. Now, some of it might have been because of the work, and they didn't have everything graded out perfectly, but like site number 4 was one that particularly looked a little odd. It looked backwards, almost like you have to go through the loop backwards to be able to back in. Site 7 was a handicap site. It looked really small. So pay attention to the size of the spaces when you register online to reserve those spots. Now the back equestrian loop, it was fine. Everything looked great back there. Lots of pull-through sites, nice big sites. That looked really nice. A lot of space. They were spaced out really well. So I definitely like those. One of the things that was kind of interesting was as you pulled into the campground, there was a little hut, a little building. And they had self-registration, so there's nowhere where you need to register. You just need to check in at that little self-registration. Not quite sure how that works, but just when you pull up, expect that you need to stop off at that little building. Not a lot to do around Lee State Park as far as amenities. We didn't see a playground. It's a place for you to go have some quiet time to unplug and escape with nature. If you're looking for that kind of quiet solitude, a nice place to just sit back and watch the birds, enjoy the breeze through the trees, I think Lee State Park may be perfect for you.